Here with me now is the Minister for Children, Families and Wellbeing, David Johnston. David, a very good morning to you. Thanks for joining us. We're going to talk about your brief and tomorrow's report earlier about childcare benefit and finding the right number of workers in a moment. But wanted to start with our top story and the situation with Abdul Ezedi, the fact that he claimed asylum status, was granted it, and of course has committed this crime over the course of this week. Is it a failure of the immigration system and a failure that he was granted asylum?
Well, this was a horrific attack, and my thoughts and the thoughts of everybody in government are with the people who were attacked and the officers who responded who've also been injured. He is the police's prime suspect at the moment. He is still at large. And you'll forgive me because there's a live police investigation for not saying anything that might compromise that.
I do understand that. Hypothetically, therefore, do you think it's a failure of the asylum system if somebody has been convicted of a crime, something like sexual assault, and years after that is still granted asylum?
Well, I haven't got his particular case file. But the broader point I would make about this is why this government's so determined to end the asylum merry-go-round, because we've seen a number of cases reported in the media where the British public do not understand why certain people are able to continually challenge asylum decisions and often successfully end up claiming asylum having been rejected. And that's very much what the Safety of Rwanda bill is all about, which is trying to end the asylum merry-go-round that we've seen.
Do you think, though, that this is an example where there was an error made, potentially?
As I say, on this particular case, I don't have his case file and I can't say anything that might affect the police's investigation here. He is still at large, and what we really need is anyone with information to come forward in order that he can be apprehended, given he is the police's key suspect. But on your broader point, it's vital that we end the asylum merry-go-round that we have seen, and that's what the Safety of Rwanda bill is all about.
And hypothetically, what if somebody arrives, changes religion on reaching the UK, and then that specifically becomes one of the reasons, if not the key reason, why they say it's not safe for them to return to their country of origin? Is that a loophole that exists? Or is it too dangerous to explore closing that loophole because of the importance of religious freedoms?
It's something that I think, what has been reported in this particular case will understandably concern, I think, every member of the British public, concerns me, concerns all members of the government. I do not know exactly what has happened in his particular case. What I do know is the British public have been very frustrated by hearing these sorts of stories over a number of years, which is why we're determined to end this merry-go-round.
Let's move on, David, to your brief, Minister for Children, and the new childcare policy that's coming into action, of course, April, expanded further in September. You're announcing a £1,000 incentive to try and attract more people into working in childcare. Does that show that this policy with good intentions isn't quite ready to go?
This government is making the single largest investment that's ever been made in childcare. And by the time we've finished our rollout, working parents will be able to claim 30 hours of free childcare every week from when their children are 9 months old until they start school. What we're doing today is launching a big new national recruitment campaign, including those financial incentives, to get more people to understand the great roles that are available in this sector and then try and encourage them into it. It's not about the first part of the rollout in April, where we feel confident about that. Last year, we saw a 13,000 increase in the number of staff, but we've deliberately staged the rollout over the next 18 months. And what the recruitment campaign today is about is ensuring we have enough staff for those next two stages.
How many more do we need by April?
Well, for April, we feel pretty confident with what we have at the moment. We've already seen the number of staff growing. They continue to do so at the moment. But what we know, because we're going to be doubling the amount that we spend on childcare from £4 billion a year to £8 billion a year, precisely because childcare is one of the biggest cost pressures facing families at the moment. And when we're finished, this will save families up to £6,500 on the cost of childcare. But it's very much a demand-led system. So it will depend how many parents come forward wanting to claim this childcare. We've already seen over 102,000 parents come forward since we opened on the 2nd of January. And that will then determine how many staff we'll need for those later parts of the rollout.
I wanted to end by asking you about MP safety following the announcement from Mike Freer that he was standing down on safety concerns. Some aspects of his situation seem unique and elevated. But do all MPs feel scared for the safety of yourselves and your families?
Well, first and foremost, I think across all political parties, we were very sad to see that Mike has made that decision. We understand why his family are so concerned and why he's done so. But it's a very bad situation for someone to feel that they're not safe representing the public in a role like this. And unfortunately, we have seen 2 members of Parliament murdered in recent years. The Speaker of the House of Commons has been working very closely with the police to see what more can be done for security. But yes, far too many of my colleagues do experience death threats and other threats of violence which are completely unacceptable.
Do you feel safe?
I generally feel safe. But there is always a lingering part, I think, in any MP's mind, knowing what has happened in recent years and knowing that a number of your colleagues get really quite regular death threats, particularly women from ethnic minorities in Parliament, that nobody, I think, doing this job is totally carefree and doesn't in some way think about their safety and what they do and how.
David Johnston, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.